Hi everybody, it's Sarah Craig with Let's Make Art, and today we are painting a tiny painting called Ocean Moonrise. Ah! We're going to be doing this project in 4 steps. So our very first step is we are going to do just a basic sketch. Our second step is we are going to do our sky and our clouds. Our third step is we're going to do our water and waves. Our fourth step is we are going to put in our moon and our highlights. This piece of paper is roughly 3 inches by 3 inches. I tore it to fit this darling ornament frame. I'm obsessed with these. This is not our first miniature painting, and look how cute that is. Are you kidding me?
Almost too cute, some might
It's
say.
so cute. I will never get tired of these. I love them so much. Okay. I'm listing all of the supplies in the description of what we're using, but please use what you have. We do not have to use the same thing. Let's go ahead and do our oath. If you can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise not to compare my work.
I promise not to compare my work.
And I promise to have fun.
I promise to have fun.
Thank you. Okay, so for the month of July, we are focusing on water. And so I wanted to do a miniature water painting. And I'm really drawn to the idea of like a very, very blue scene with this like orange yellow moon. And I know you guys have seen moons that are like orange and yellow. Okay. Is it like the harvest moon? Is that what they're called? I don't know.
Yeah, people have a million names for moons now. I feel like they
Okay.
come out of nowhere.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like Blue Wolf Moon.
Yeah, I'm not as up to date on my moon language. But anyways, I was playing with those colors and I think that they go really well together, mostly because those are complementary colors. Okay.
All right.
So that's what we're going to do here. However, it's your painting. If you don't like an orange moon, you can do white. I'm fine with that.
Just don't talk about it.
Just don't tell me about it, okay? Just kidding. Okay. All right, so I have a pencil. So basically, I'm just going to put in my horizon line. I did it roughly like a little below the center. Okay? If you want to put it where your moon is going to go, you can. I'm not going to because I'm painting that with white, so it doesn't really matter. And then for my waves, I decided to have the waves kind of come out at an angle like this. That was of course, a personal choice. You can have it go straight if you want. The biggest thing though, whenever it comes to waves, is that the waves are going to be smaller, thinner, and closer together in the background, and then they get bigger and spread more apart as they make their way towards you. That's the only way that we can communicate depth and distance within this painting when it comes to water. So I'm going to have the waves kind of come here. So I'm just kind of doing this swoop, and then now I'm going to let them spread out a little bit more. You see that?
Love it.
The other thing to think about too is this curve is going to transition into more of a horizontal line the closer it gets to the horizon line. So along the horizon line, these curves are going to be more straight, and then as you make your way out, they'll get more angled. Boo, boo, boo. You see that?
Yep.
Okay. And when it comes to doing sketches on your paper, first of all, there are general guides. Sometimes I do a sketch and I go, oh, I don't like that. But in my mind, I know what I want to change about it. So then when I go to paint it, I change it. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
I make an outline to ignore the outline.
That's right. No one can tell you
the
what to do.
only way to go. Don't tell me how to live. Don't put me in a box. Okay. That's all I'm going to do for my sketch. All right, let's paint. So for the sky, I'm using like a cobalt blue. I'm going to use some Payne's gray. I'm going to use a little phthalo, okay? I'm going to have the value a little bit darker along my horizon, and then it actually lightens in value as it goes up. Whenever you're painting a sky, you usually are always going to want some sort of value change. The value change communicates depth and distance the same way that these kind of like lines and angles do for our waves, okay?
All right.
So I have cobalt here. Let's grab a little bit of Payne's gray, maybe a little phthalo, a little bit more cobalt. The nice thing is like, it can be any color blue. So I'm gonna go across here. And then I'm just gonna use water to bring this up. I'm gonna do another kind of swoop to make sure that horizon line is nice and dark. and then transition that up. Now I have this nice little transition. And then now I'm going to take that color, the darker color that I used for the horizon, and I'm going to put in a couple clouds. Just kind of coming in, just kind of touching them in. Remember to swoop, and the rule of the angles are the same for clouds as they are for water. The higher they are, they're going to be more angled as they make their way closer to the horizon. So they're kind of swooping in like this, and then near the horizon line, they straighten out. So it goes do 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 like that. Do you see that?
Do 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 do. Love it.
And sometimes my clouds diffuse out if my background is really wet. So sometimes you got to do a couple layers. Okay. And then I'm just going to stop touching it. That's enough. That's good. We're going to let it go. We're going to want to let this dry before we do our water because we want there to be a difference between like a clear edge between our water and our sky. So if I were to try and paint the water right now, that edge would bleed, which sometimes I want, but today I do not. So I'm going to use my heated craft tool to let it dry. Now we are going to do our water. So the water, I'm going to lean a little bit more phthalo, but I still am going to use touches of Payne's gray and cobalt blue. The reason for me leaning more into the phthalo is it gives my blue sky a different color than my blue water. That is just a decision I'm making to make it so there's more of a difference between my land and my sky, or my water and my sky. But if you want to do the same colors, you absolutely can. It really is just me making a choice, but like there's no right or wrong when it comes to it. Okay.
All right.
So I'm going to put in my water and try and make my line straight. And then now I'm going to go in and let's start to put in some of these waves. So the back is going to be a darker value in general, okay? Again, because we want there to be some sort of value change to communicate that depth and that difference. Now, the other thing to think about is back here along this horizon line where the water is furthest away from us, you are going to have, for the most part, an overall darker value because all of those waves that we're seeing right here are kind of all clumped together and then smoothed out. Does that make sense?
Compressed.
Yeah, compressed. So it kind of overall creates a darker value. However, all of the values here are informed by the light. The lighting of a scene and a landscape is really what is going to inform you in terms of where there's the lighter values, where there's the darker values. Because, of course, we also have things like atmospheric perspective, which is a real rule in which further away in space, things even out in value and become lighter in value. But that is usually during a scene where there is bright light. Like that is during, so like I guess like I know that people want a hard and fast rule of like when do I make the background a lighter value? When do I make the foreground a darker value? How do I know the difference? And it's just like if there is a hard and fast rule just for that, I'm not entirely sure. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to like look at your reference. The other thing to think about is that it doesn't actually matter as long as there is a difference in values. As if there is a difference in values, then you're fine because the difference in values is what communicates that depth in space. It doesn't matter which one is which, as long as it's present. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And I know that there probably are some artists who are more experienced than I am who are saying, you're wrong. There is a rule. And for that, I appreciate you knowing that.
Can't hear you. Nah,
Put
nah,
it,
nah, nah.
no, I was going to say put it in the comments. So I'm just using a darker value to kind of put in some of these waves just to give me a little bit of texture within my water. Yeah, that looks good.
I bet there is no unifying rule like in physics. gravity behaves differently on a planet than it does at a teeny tiny scale. And physicists forever have been trying to find the unified theory, but I don't know if it even like if it's real.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing. Just it's situational.
Yeah, yes, it is situational. And when we're not going off of like a hard reference photo, it can be confusing. And that's why it's just like I'm releasing that expectation from you guys. And instead, I'm saying the most important thing is that there is a change in value. That's the only thing you really have to remember. Okay.
All right.
I'm going to let this like sit and dry for a moment before I go in and do another layer of like darker waves. I will say that my lines got a little bit like crooked, that it's just like, wait, where are the waves coming in? So I'm going to see if I can lighten some values here by just taking a damp brush and lifting out to see if I can get some of that movement back for my water.
Well, that helped a ton.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to let the light back in. And then also sometimes like you just layer so much and it bleeds out so much, it be kind of just evens out. So that's why just doing a little bit of lifting can just again create like bring in a lighter value because you're lifting off that color to expose more of the paper, which creates a lighter value in general. And then it's a little bit easier to kind of like define things from there.
What I'm hearing is a little lifting does a lot of lifting.
Yeah. A little lifting does a lot of lifting.
Does a lot of heavy lifting.
Okay. And I can see already that I used a bit more phthalo in the one on the left than the one on the right. I can see that in my water already. So if I want to, if that like bothers me, or if I want there to be a little bit more color, I can just do a little glaze of phthalo and that will bring in that color. But again, that's adding another value. So then it's just like, okay, do I want to add another value or am I okay with there being not as much phthalo? See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And these are decisions that you just got to make as you're painting. Okay, I want to do like one more. I feel like my horizon line looks very crooked. Do you see that?
Yes.
I'm going to straighten it out.
It looks stormy to me.
Well, I'm okay with that. Trying to get a straight horizon line, honestly, is like half the battle for me.
Because you won't use rulers and no one can tell you to. And
Because I won't use hard lines or rulers.
but why is this so hard?
Somebody's like, there, you're like, Michael, Michael, you're like, there's a solution for this.
What is art without pain, you know?
That's right. I gotta create problems where there aren't any. Okay, I'm going to do one more kind of darker edge right here. And if you look at water and waves, the only thing that you're really looking at is a transition in value from light to dark over and over again. That's all waves are. And so when water is smooth like glass, there's not a lot of up and down transitions between. It's smooth. So you could just do a light to dark even and not have any adjustments in values. And that's how you communicate that it's nice and smooth. The more adjustments in values you have, where it goes up and down, up and down, up and down, that is showing the viewer, you're communicating to the viewer, there's a lot of movement, a lot of waves. And so we get overwhelmed when we see water, but a lot of it is just separating yourself from the fact that it's water and you think that it's hard, because that really does play tricks on your brain. Look at it for what it's actually doing, recognizing that it's just value transitions, and then you find the shapes. What shape do I see that's super dark? What shape do I see that's a light value? What shape do I see that's a medium value? And you just follow those shapes and put those in with the corresponding values, and you have waves, okay?
All right.
That's fine. That's
fine.
it.
All right. Just that.
Just that, you guys. What, like it's hard?
What? Like it's hard.
Okay, I'm going to do another little shadow right here. There we go. That feels good. That feels good enough.
Elle, you got into law school? What? Like it's
What?
hard?
Like it's hard? Classic.
Yeah.
Okay. Now what we can do is we are going to let this dry before we put in our moon. And by let it dry, I'm just gonna, mess with it because that's what I do. I just can't
Do as
help
I
myself.
do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly. Okay. I just feel like I'm losing a little bit of highlight in there. Okay. I need to be done with it. My horizon line straight?
It's straight. Let it be. These are words of wisdom. Let it be.
Okay. Let's put in our moon. So I'm going to use bleed proof white mixed with Hansa yellow and opera pink. And the reason why I'm mixing in some bleed proof white in there is because it's going to create an opaque layer. And when you mix Hansa and opera pink together, you actually get this really vibrant orange. I love it. It's a really good orange.
I
So
think
what
of
I'm,
it as 80s skater orange,
yeah, totally. Like neon.
neon orange.
Okay, I'm going to put the sun right here. I'm going to start with just the Hansa yellow and opera pink orange. Later, I'm going to put in like maybe a little bit of yellow on top. So we just like to see how it does. So I'm going to put the moon, try and center it. So just notice that like this orange on my palette is so much brighter. And that's because my palette is white or cream underneath. Underneath my orange moon here is blue, which is the complement of orange, which means that when they're layered together, you're not going to get a bright orange, okay? But we'll go back in with some bleed proof white. I don't want to do too much right now. Okay, so there's that. So, okay, when you add bleed proof white to any color, it desaturates it. So instead of this being a bright orange, this is now like a peach. But what I'm going to do is I'll go back in after this has dried and just do a layer of Hansa yellow. So then it's essentially doing a yellow layer on top of white paper. Like that yellow will be bright. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So sometimes I'll just use bleed proof white as a way. My son's here and he's sneezing. It's cute.
Sure.
I'll do bleed proof white as like an area that I'll go back in and do a glaze over so then I can get that vibrancy of that color as if it's painted on white paper. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So when I'm doing my highlights for on my water from my moon, I'm going to think about that same rule. Things that are farther away get smaller. So the reflection right underneath my moon along these waves is going to be small. And then as I make my way forward, where the waves get bigger and I get closer to it, that's where the reflection is going to get a little bit bigger. Okay.
Okay.
Again, the layer of the reflection or like the size of the reflection is giving information to our viewer in terms of depth and distance. I'm going to start with doing like a white. And then I'll go back and layer it with more of a yellow. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I were to do a tiny little this thing the whole way through, then it wouldn't communicate depth and distance. It would communicate a reflection, but we really wouldn't be able to understand how deep that water goes. Also, you'll notice that I'm trying to follow the shapes of the waves. So because my waves are curved, that's what the reflection is hitting, curved waves. If your waves are straight, then your reflections need to mimic or mirror whatever the whatever the wave shape is because the light is hitting the wave. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
They're not independent of each other. Okay, now let's take some Hansa yellow and maybe a little bit of the orange because sometimes the yellow and the blue together make green and I want to keep it more warm than that. Okay.
Lovely.
And then let's see if my bleed proof white is dry enough. I can go with my yellow. Right in that center. Oh, I want more orange. I'm going to try and lift. You might be like, why are you lifting? Because I had like a puddle, like it was like the layer of the yellow that I just put was like a droplet
Mm.
almost. And if I tried to add color to that, it wouldn't absorb because there was so much of that yellow. So you have to lift, but I can't just like touch it because then that would smear the paint, which would make my moon bigger. Is this all making sense?
Oh yeah.
There we go. That feels better. The same way it's hard to get like a really straight horizon line, it's hard to get a perfectly circular moon. So just do your best, okay? I love those colors together. Aren't they pretty?
So good.
Okay, that's it. That's our painting. Now, one thing that I would say, if I had to do it again, I would probably make my horizon line a little bit darker, like where my moon is underneath, because I think the contrast of that medium value or medium dark value stands out better than the medium value. Do you see that?
Yeah.
And then if you were to say, well, what if I wanted to do that now? Can I? You actually can. You can. What I would do is I would take as much water as I can, like a clean brush, lift up as much moon as you can, let it dry, and then you would do another wash down here. And you can just have it connect to the bottom of these clouds. You wouldn't even have to cover the whole thing. It would just be kind of right here. Let that dry, and then you put your moon in with bleed proof white. Does that make sense?
Piece of cake.
And it's one of those things where it's just like, the more that you paint, the more that you explore, there's going to be moments where you're just like, man, I wish I could fix that. Sometimes try to fix it. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But if it does, then you have that information for the next time. And if it doesn't, then it's just like, this was a 3x3 piece of paper. I mean, if you were to do this without without you watching me, it would take you 10 minutes and you could just start over. So it's one of those things where just we're so afraid of messing something up, but you have to remember that this is not the only painting you're ever going to paint. This is not the best painting you will ever going to paint. And you cannot approach your artwork with that mindset because if you do, there's so much pressure on yourself to make it perfect. But paintings aren't perfect. We're not perfect people. We will make mistakes. We will, our brush will fall, all of that kind of stuff. It's part of it. So instead of saying, my expectation is to do this perfectly every single time, you need to say, I trust myself to work my way through this painting no matter what it is. That's the mindset you need to have. And then mistakes aren't that scary. It's part of it. And you just figure out how to work with them. Okay?
Love it.
Okay. Let's let this dry. And then I'm going to put it in the frame. I'm actually wondering if I should do one more layer of like yellow here. Just right in that center. Yeah. Like the lack of darker value right here is not bothering me so much that I'm going to redo it.
Yeah. Me neither.
I think it's just a different feel of painting and that's okay. All right, let's remove the tape. Ah. Okay, let's put it in the frame.
Those frames are so cute. Every time I see them.
Every time, and this is probably the biggest one.
Perfect.
Look at how cute that is. Oh, I wanted to tell you guys this too. By the way, if you're throwing a birthday party for kids and they're a little bit older, These are great party favors. So for my niece's birthday, it was her 14th birthday. I did a little watercolor class and then I brought these frames and everyone could choose one and then they made their own tiny paintings.
So cute.
And it was so fun and because they're so small, the stress of making something disappears because like if you just do a tiny little flower on there,
Yeah.
it's so cute. So I just wanted to let you guys know that that was a huge hit for my niece's birthday. And if you need some good kind of favor activity ideas to do for a birthday party, I mean, this could work for any age, then this is a really, really fun one. Okay.
All right.
Thank you guys for painting with me. We'll see you next time. Bye.